With Representative Todd Thomsen. Todd, thanks for stopping in mylegislator.tv.
It's great to be here, and as always, it's a good opportunity to come into a Capitol. And I had a group from Washington Elementary there in Ada, Oklahoma. Actually, I've had 3 consecutive days of groups from Washington come up. I want to thank Amy Allen and those other teachers that were able to come up and bring their class. And one thing that I always tell kids or any adult that comes up is that we have a beautiful Capitol. I mean, it's surrounded by artwork, and all inside is almost like a museum within the legislative process. And so it's something that I think all Oklahomans can be proud of. But last week, one thing I did not have an opportunity to talk about that really set our Capitol apart. I think if you drove up to the Capitol last week, as you came from the south, you would have noticed the lawn was covered in American flags and Oklahoman flags. And really it was a kind of a breathtaking sight to come and see that. And I really had forgot what the purpose of that was until I got up here and remembered that it wasn't in honor of veterans, which I kind of anticipated. What it was in honor of was all of the children that have died at the hands of child abuse over this past year. All the American flags represented kids across the country, and all the Oklahoma flags represented Oklahoma kids. And you know, the one statistic that really sticks out to me is that we're 48th in child fatalities from child abuse. And really, you know, to be a leader in so many poor statistics really leads me to some concerns over where we value life in general. And I wanted to give everybody an example, and I think a representative made a great point. We've had some contentious bills out here over the last couple of weeks. One of them concerning teeth floating. Now, probably most of my viewers don't even know what teeth floating is, and I sure didn't, but it's where you file down a horse's teeth. You know, I did not know that a horse's teeth do not stop growing, and so you go in there and you file them down. I guess that's where the term long in the tooth comes from. And so you file down the teeth. We've also had puppy mills being talked about, and dog breeders. And you know that our Capitol has been full of people protecting horses' teeth, and puppy mills. But we've had several issues and bills come through dealing with life, and nary a person comes up to protest. And in fact, just yesterday, the governor vetoed, late last night, the governor vetoed legislation dealing with embryonic stem cell research, and which makes 2 years in a row that he has vetoed legislation dealing with pro-life issues. And so I wonder, where's our priority sometime?
Todd, and of course you talk about the beauty of the Capitol. You've talked about it before in the past to encourage people coming up, and I know from your heart you do that because you want to encourage the public just to step on what sometimes we feel as the public as hallowed grounds and grounds in which we can't have an impact. But that's exactly what you're trying to get across, as I understand, is that, you know, those flags made a statement. When people show up on the teeth floating bill, it made a statement. When they show up on the puppy mill, it makes a statement. It makes an impact. So the Capitol is a beautiful place, and we all should own it. But I think you're talking to me and to my heart as to saying, hey, Danny, you can have an impact just by showing up here and talking to the people who represent you.
Well, that's exactly right, and I think it does make a statement, and I commend people for coming up in support of the puppy mill bill. I commend people for coming up in support of the teeth floor. That is the responsibility that we have as citizens of this great state and of this great country to voice our opinion. I mean, the Capitol was full last week of people with the Tea Party, and people are angered about you know, the national things going on dealing with tax. And so people were out there voicing their opinion. I think sometimes that our lack of voice speaks louder than words sometimes on some issues. Whenever the life of a child is concerned and no one is speaking up, maybe sometimes that is a louder sound. The silence is louder than all the voices. And sometimes we should look in the mirror and say, what are we truly standing for sometimes? We lead in a lot of areas. Poor health, the way we take care of children is poor. Our incarceration levels are extremely high. So what are we setting the standard in? Divorce is really high. And you know what's really interesting? If you think about many of those things, and I've thought about this from a guy's standpoint, is how many of those things, if men took control and responsibility for the role that they're supposed to take within their family, within the community, how many of those problems would go away? And in turn, how much less would we have to invest in tax dollars into treating, preventing, taking care of all of these problems that have been created? I mean, you think about all of the women that are incarcerated. I'm telling you, if it wasn't for some guy probably getting them involved in drugs, being involved in abuse somehow, a lot of those women would not be involved in our prison system. Those children that are being neglected or under child abuse conditions, if there was a guy in the home standing firm as his place should be to protect the family, then those things would not be happening. So how much can we really look as men in the mirror and say, hey, we are costing our state not only money, but we're costing our state, our future in the lives of our kids.
Wow, and a bit of irony, of course, today, buses of kids, Miss Allen coming up with elementary kids. How many of us have not visited the Capitol or made a statement at our Capitol since we were in 5th or 6th grade? As a man, I receive that as a challenge. It's a great challenge. Representative Todd Thomsen, thanks, man, for stopping in and just enlightening us a little bit about the impact that we really can have.
Hey, you guys have a great day. Thank you so much for taking time to kind of hear my heart. If you ever have questions, don't ever hesitate to call my office. Sherry Ward's in the office, and she will help facilitate any questions that you have and get me connected with you. And I think that's really the most important thing is learning to dialogue and hear your point of view and let you hear my point of view. And so I appreciate this time.